Assalamu alaikum students, this is Bilal Adil for the subject of English second year. This is lecture number 9 and we are in lesson number 2 using the scientific method. In the previous 2 lectures I had given you all the vocabulary, difficult words as well as important words which may not be difficult for you but they were important. I had given you the meanings of all the words so that you may have read the lesson before I come to this lecture, and I hope that you have already gone through the lesson so that I can now start explaining this lesson using the scientific method. But before going to the using the scientific method, come to the word problem. In day-to-day life, in our everyday life, we all run into problems, we all come across problems in our life, problems in health, problems in our work, problems at home, problems in traveling, problems can be in studies, all kind of problems I mean. And we earnestly want to resolve those problems. We really want to resolve those problems. We do not want those problems to continue springing up. And those problems can be resolved. It's not that problems cannot be resolved. They can be resolved. How and why things happen. They can be resolved if we know, if we have information and knowledge how and why things happen in general. How and why things happen generally, and then how things are happening differently अराउंड अस कि अमूमी तौर पर कैसे वाक़यात रूनुमा होते हैं और हमारे साथ दूसरों से कैसे मुख्तलिफ रूनुमा हो रहे हैं। अगर इस चीज़ का हमें इल्म हो तो हम अपनी प्रॉब्लम्स को समझ सकते हैं। द प्रॉब्लम एंड इट्स काजेस, आई मीन टू से हमें उस प्रॉब्लम से आगाही हो, उसकी काजेस या काज का पता हो, वी कैन डू समथिंग अबाउट इट। फिर हम उस प्रॉब्लम के बारे में कुछ कर सकते हैं। दिस इज व्हाट वी कॉल क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग। हाउ थिंग्स आर हैपनिंग अराउंड अस, हाउ थिंग्स हैपन जनरली, व्हाट इज द प्रॉब्लम, व्हाट आर द कॉजेज ऑफ दिस प्रॉब्लम, एंड देन फाइंडिंग आउट सम सॉल्यूशन। दिस इज कॉल्ड क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग। व्हाई इज क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग इंपॉर्टेंट इन आवर लाइफ? It is very important in our life because it helps to analyze problems and situations. Critical thinking helps to analyze problems and situations. Which of the problems and situations? Especially the problems and situations which don't have easier and obvious solutions. Critical thinking is important in life. It helps to analyze problems and situations which don't have easier and obvious solutions. And this critical thinking helps us in observing, analyzing, and thinking open-mindedly. By critical thinking, we develop a habit of observing, analyzing, and thinking open-mindedly. Up till here, I hope it is clear. Coming to using the scientific method, it is directly linked with critical thinking. The question is now, how can we develop critical thinking? We can develop critical thinking by using the scientific method. How can we use the scientific method? We can use scientific method by developing critical thinking. The arrow goes from this side to this side, and from there it again comes to this side. They are interlinked. How can we develop a habit of critical thinking? Science. First of all, I have numbered 4 misconceptions about science. We have got some misconceptions in our mind about science. The first one is that science is for scientists only, or at least it's only for the students of science. It's no. I would say not. Science is for every individual, whether he is educated or uneducated, literate or illiterate. Science is for everyone. For example, an illiterate person, he looks at the sky, and the sky is full of stars, and it is clear. So by this observation he can reach the conclusion that it's not going to rain. So he is using critical thinking, he is using scientific method, he has seen the signs in the sky, and then he has concluded something. The second misconception is that science is in laboratories, and for scientific method we need advanced laboratories which may not be available everywhere. This concept is again wrong. Science is not confined to science laboratories only. Science is in everyday life. When you have got temperature, how do you feel it? And what do you do about it? When you go to doctor, what does doctor do with you? When you eat something and then you feel something uncomfortable in your stomach, what do you observe? You observe some pain. And what do you guess then? So it is again science. You are observing, you are analyzing, and you are thinking. So science is not confined to the laboratory. Science is in everyday life. In your home, outside your home, in your workplace, in your traveling, everywhere. The third misconception is science is about lot of information. So many people think that science is about absurd information, like for example, how hot is sun, what is the speed of light, what is the speed of sound. Science is about knowing all these facts. No, it's not like that. Science is actually developing a habit of observing, analyzing, and thinking open-mindedly. Keep this definition in your mind. Science is actually developing a habit of observing, analyzing, and thinking open-mindedly. That is critical thinking. That is the habit of critical thinking, and that is using the scientific method. Coming to fourth misconception, that is science is trying to find ultimate truth. Let me explain it. The fourth misconception about science. The fourth misconception is that science is trying to find ultimate truth. Again, I would say that it's not so. The objection is that science is trying to find out exact laws and facts. Laws and facts which are exact and true in any circumstances, which are always exact and true. That's a misconception about science. Science does not deal in finding ultimate truth. Finding ultimate truth is the area of philosophy or faith. By faith I mean religion. Finding ultimate truth is the area of philosophy or religion. Science does not deal with finding exact laws and facts. Science actually deals with probability. What is probability? Probability is the chances. It is maximum 100. If you have got a coin in your hand and you are going to toss it, it has got only two sides. One is head, other is tail. There are 50-50 chances. 50% chances for the head to come on the upside and 50% chances for the tail. And if you toss it, either it would be head or it would be tail. So the probability is 50-50. No. If you toss some coin with four sides, the probability would be 100 divided by 4, 25 for each side. So science deals with probability. It does not deal with exact laws. When we get weather forecast, it is not always correct. There are exceptions. There are always exceptions to the rules. You may get a weather forecast that it would rain in your area in the afternoon, and it may not rain. It may be incorrect. And on the other hand, you may get a forecast that it would not rain, and there can be a lot of rain. So exceptions are always there, but science deals with probability. When they give you weather forecast, they say that there is probability of rain, 60%, 40%, 100%, 70%. Even if they say that there are 100% chances of rain, there is possibility that it would not rain, because exceptions are always there. So the area of science is not to find out exact laws and facts. Coming towards scientific method, the use of scientific method. Back in 17th century, the scientists in Europe, they decided to design a method by which their students or the scholars should start thinking, and according to that design, they should do their research. There are 4 steps. At some places you would find 5 steps, at some places you would find 6 steps, but basically there are 4 steps of using scientific method. It's not that this scientific method can only be applied in science or in the laboratories. We have been applying this scientific method in everyday life. The first one is observation. By observation, they do not mean seeing something. When you enter in the room, you feel some smell. So you observe smell. Smell of gas or smell of something rotten. Observation is not watching. Observation is not seeing. Observation is not looking. Because you can see without thinking, you can look without thinking, you can watch without thinking. Observation involves thinking. The use of involvement of mind. When you are using your 5 senses, the sense of sight, sense of listening, sense of touch, sense of smell, when you are using your 5 senses with your active brain behind that, that is called observation. With the help of your mind, you are using all your senses to observe something, that is called observation. I should give an example. You go home, you see that your television is not working. It may be out of order. That is your observation. Creating a hypothesis. Hypothesis is guess, making a guess. We do not necessarily need to make a correct guess. It can be incorrect. You make a hypothesis that maybe electric supply is disconnected. You immediately switch on another button, maybe of fan, maybe of tube light on the same board, to see whether electric supply is continued or discontinued. That is experiment. You have created hypothesis that there is no electricity. And to prove that hypothesis correct or incorrect, to prove that hypothesis wrong or right, you do an experiment. That experiment is switching on something else. And if you are switched on and you see light in the room, your experiment brought you conclusion that electricity is intact. Electric supply is correct. Okay. The second is, you would again create another hypothesis. You would again create another hypothesis, and then you would again do an experiment. The another hypothesis can be maybe the socket in which you have plugged in your television, maybe that is not working. You would immediately do an experiment by checking the socket. If the socket is all right, again you draw a conclusion that socket is also all right. Next step would be checking the plug of the television. You would check that plug of the television. That is again a hypothesis that maybe the plug is not working properly. Then you do the experiment by checking the plug. Then you do the conclusion. So this is how we do use scientific method in our day-to-day life. For example, Talking about the boys, you take your bike out and you want to start it and it does not start. What would be your first hypothesis? Maybe you did not switch on the ignition properly. You switch on the ignition once again. Then you kick it. You did experiment and then you draw the conclusion that no, the fault was not with the ignition switch. You would make another guess, another hypothesis, then you would do experiment on that, and then you would draw conclusion. So this is what we call scientific method. So before going to explain the lesson, I felt it appropriate to make clear to you what is scientific method, what is critical thinking, and how we use scientific. We already have been using scientific method in our day-to-day life, everyday life. Thank you very much. In next lecture, we will explain the lesson further.